Hello, this is former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and you are listening to the radio. Here is your host, John Santo. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to the radio. This is episode 4, December 2nd, 2019, and I am very lucky to be joined by, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Doug Hildemann.
Doug Hildemann. And let me tell you why we're very lucky to have Doug on the show this evening. Doug is a food industry expert, and we're going to talk about my favorite subject,
Food.
Food. Right?
Food's great.
Everybody eats it.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some things about food, and Doug is so good, he knows so much about food, that when I am President of the United States, Doug is going to be my Secretary of Agriculture.
It will be an honor.
Thank you. And I'm also going to put, I think, I'm going to separate the Food and Drug Administration to just, I don't know why they're together. Have a drug administration and a food administration. Yeah. And we're going to put food under agriculture, where it belongs. And I am going to give you a militant police force that you can send out and get these sons of bitches that are putting all these poisons and screwing around with the food supply.
Excellent.
Any practice you don't like, we implement like that. And don't worry about Congress. I'll handle them.
You got them.
You can do whatever you want.
All right. My GMO police.
That's right. Oh, I like it. Yeah, we got to think of a good name, like the GMO police.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what's GMO?
Sure.
And talk about some of the practices that you see. And we're also going to do a list of food ingredients that are illegal here, but banned everywhere else.
Yep, because the United States is obviously more concerned with profit over health. One of the few countries that still does that. Most of the countries around the world have banned, in some form, genetically modified ingredients, GMOs.
GMOs, yep.
Genetically modified organisms, excuse me. The two biggest ones in the United States are corn and soy.
Yep.
But like 96% of our both supplies are genetically modified. Now, there's a lot of controversy. A lot of people say, well, all genetically modified means is that they've changed the DNA a little bit so we can produce more.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that. Change the DNA?
Yeah. That right there. We've seen this in too many movies.
I've seen way too many movies.
Isn't that what they did in Jurassic Park? Look how that turned out.
And that idiot kept saying he spared no expense. We spared no expense. We spared no expense. But he wouldn't pay Newman a livable wage. He had to be corrupt and sell the. Yeah, nature always finds a way.
Exactly. So a lot of people say, well, just because it's genetically modified doesn't mean it's dangerous. Doesn't mean it's safe either. And when you look at the people who are behind it, Monsanto.
Not John Santo.
Not John Santo.
John Santo eats food. Monsanto makes food.
Monsanto is the company that was behind PCBs, DDT, and Agent Orange.
I don't like any of those.
All of those have killed millions of Americans between the three of them. And one day when all those products got banned, they decided, what should we do next? Let's take over the food supply. So they got rid of their...
now, what's DDT?
DDT was a pesticide used for many, many years till it was associated with all kinds of cancers and diseases and was banned. PCB was used in all kinds of manufacturing till they found out it was dangerous. And Monsanto, by the way, dumped all the PCBs into several lakes, poisoning hundreds of thousands of people. But they paid a fine, so it's okay.
Yeah, and how much was the fine compared to the crime?
Nothing.
Right.
And so and then Agent Orange, we all know about.
Yeah.
Vietnam vets are still paying the price for that.
Yep.
So what do we do now? We let them control our food supply, which is just insane. So most of the studies that say GMOs are safe were paid for by Monsanto.
No independent studies?
There's been some, but they mostly concluded we can't find anything dangerous. But you got to be a little suspicious. Here's another thing. They fought labeling of GMOs. Now, even if GMOs are safe, don't you think you have the right to know if they're in your food?
Yeah, I absolutely am for labeling.
And let the consumer know? So they fought, and their lobbyists paid hundreds of millions of dollars to fight food labeling. And
to fight labeling.
They don't want people. They don't want people to be able to see on the label contains genetically modified organisms because they say that will scare people off. Well, no, duh.
Right.
It'll scare people off. What that's created is a whole nother industry where companies now that want to be non-GMO certified have to go through an expensive certification process and get renewed every year. So they've created a whole nother business where now food that is non-genetically modified costs more because they have to pay for the certification.
Now tell me, you once told me that if you're a farm, you're an independent farm, and you're next to a Monsanto farm, and their seeds go onto your land, that affects your certification or whatever it was.
A couple of things happened. First of all, when Monsanto came out with their genetic GMO seeds, mostly corn and soy, they swore there was no chance that they could leave fields where they were used and wind up on organic fields. Like you said, nature finds a way. Wind, cross-pollinate bees, whatever. Suddenly, GMO seeds are winding up on organic fields a couple of miles away. So not only is the organic farmer's food no longer organic, Monsanto sues the organic farmer for stealing their patent. Just imagine this. What that's like is imagine if you live in a beautiful house and you have it painted beautiful white.
Yep.
And your neighbor comes in and decides to paint his house purple. And while he's painting it, all the overspray goes off and covers your house. And now your house has purple paint all over it. And your neighbor sues you for stealing his paint.
Right.
That's basically what's happening with Monsanto and their seeds.
See, that doesn't pass the John Santo common sense test.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Right. Like I said, GMOs, many of them may be perfectly safe. But I want to know.
I want to know, too.
I want to know if it's in my food. And basically, a lot of their crops, basically what they're doing is they're putting a pesticide inside the seed. What they're making a seed that will not be eaten by bugs so that farmers can have a bigger yield. So basically, you're admitting you have a pesticide inside your soybean seed.
I don't like that either.
It's nuts, and that you can't that they fight so that you can't know about it either. And Obama, who I'm sort of a fan of, did a lot of wrong things. He helped pass the bill to force companies to put on the products whether it was genetically modified or not. But they watered down the bill so much that where it was supposed to say this product contains GMOs. They now put not a barcode. What's that little square thing?
UPC code?
No, a scan, like a scan.
Oh, so you could scan it.
Yeah, so they put a scan. There's going to be a thing on there that you can scan to see if it has genetically modified ingredients. But it doesn't say anywhere on there that this scan shows you ingredients.
Right.
So if you don't know,
you don't know what it is. I wouldn't know what it is.
You just see
it's not a UPC. I know what you're talking. It's that the QR code.
Yes,
whatever.
QR.
QR code.
There will be a QR code on products, and you can scan it to find out if there's genetically modified. Who's going to take the time
no one's gonna
to scan?
take the time.
And it doesn't even say on it, scan this to find out what's in your food. It's just on the product.
Now, as the future Secretary of Agriculture, right, there's nothing to prevent us from publishing all the foods that contain GMOs on the Department of Agriculture website and then making it easily accessible to the public. We could have a whole budget for information campaigns.
There would not be unless Monsanto, which, by the way, Monsanto has been sold to Bayer.
Okay.
So Bayer, the aspirin manufacturer, now owns Monsanto. So, again, food and drug in the same company.
Same company, yeah.
One reason why we've always had a problem for that, I'll give you an example. Michael Taylor was Monsanto's vice president of public policy. He quit that job to become one of the heads of the FDA. So the company that is basically trying to poison us is now the one deciding what can be regulated.
You see that in the banks and everything else. Yeah.
There's a list of 20 people who have gone back and forth between the FDA and Monsanto.
It's rampant all through the government. It's rampant in every department of the government, unfortunately.
Yep.
There really should be separate regulators that are separate from the industry. I totally agree with that. But we can publish, and we'll study all the foods, and we'll get that out there, and we'll have our own TV campaign.
Yep.
I've always said you want to lower the price because they put the EpiPen price at $600 something. I said, okay, well, I'm going to make the government labs. By the way, a lot of these things aren't going to pass a pure constitutional test.
Right.
But the good news is that the Supreme Court is 9 elderly lawyers that are on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and I don't give a shit what they say. I'm going to do this. If the American people want it, we're going to do it.
That's right.
We're going to give everybody a code, every registered voter. If whatever gets 60%, we're doing. And that's it. And we're going to do this thing with the food labeling. We're going to do this with the pesticides.
Right.
And we're going to have a whole. And then, and if they don't lower the price of the EpiPen, I'll form government labs that'll push it out at $1 a pop.
Yep.
And then we'll see how they compete with my federal
My
program.
daughter has to carry an EpiPen.
Me too. My son has one.
If there ever comes a day when my daughter can't afford to have one and something goes wrong, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to regret making the price of the EpiPen $600.
Yeah. Well, we're going to stop that in its tracks.
Okay.
We're going to make everything more affordable. I actually think there should be 3 things that a president can do that if they get X percent of this new program I'm going to have, that you don't need congressional to just do it. Because there's so much, and you said it before, the lobbying. You get rid of the money in politics, and I've always been against them taking any money, then you'll solve a lot of problems. Because a lot of these things where you scratch your head, why the hell are they doing it? Because they have all these special interests.
Yep. That's why the bill for labeling GMOs got so watered down from when it started. Here's a scary thing about, when you say I'm a food expert, I've been working in the organic food business for 25 years. I knew nothing about it when I started. And even when I started, I was just a merchandiser making the shelves look pretty, but I learned as I went. What's kind of scary about it is it used to be a great business to work in. It was mostly a lot of small companies who believed in organics. And when I started doing sales, what's happened now is the big companies are seeing the profit in organics. Organic sales have been up 20 to 30% every year for the last 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. It's
20, 30% growth each year for how many years?
At least 20 years.
Wow.
And here's a good one. You know how the organic boom started? Or the health food industry boom started? When Wilford Ridley started telling you eat oatmeal.
The diabetes. I want to talk to you about your diabetes.
All of a sudden, people were going into stores, running in, looking for oatmeal. And you saw all of a sudden oatmeal was everywhere. It was the beginning of the health food craze nationally. It used to just be a California thing. We thought it was just hippies. It's now, there was no health food in the 70s, over in New York. When we were growing up, health food meant you ate the unfrosted Pop-Tarts.
Right.
The growth has been incredible, which means, of course, the big companies are buying up the little companies. So when I started working as an organic food salesman in about 2008, my biggest companies were Justin's Nut Butter. They make peanut butter. Honest Tea.
Yep.
And
I like that product.
And Nutiva, which makes coconut oil. My 3 biggest. I had like 40 brands, but those were the biggest. When I left in 2017, my 3 biggest companies were General Mills, Coca-Cola, and Clorox. Because they were buying up organic companies left and right.
And for them, it's a cash out. They cash, they get a major infusion of cash. But you were talking about like the smaller companies, and I wrote this down when you were talking about the farms.
Sure.
Like the independent. You used to have a lot of independent farms in the country, and then when you have these like disease outbreaks with the chickens or something, they usually were contained because each farm was independent. They were small. They were run separately. There wasn't as big of an outbreak. But now that you have these large mills of large farms, now when there's an outbreak, you got to destroy all the chickens, right? So it's a bigger deal. It's
all corporate farming. What we don't realize on living on the coasts, we don't realize in the middle of America.
There's a whole country, by the way, between the coasts.
It's weird. I actually drove through it once, and it was like
west of the Hudson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole country. Past the Meadowlands, out there's a whole country.
We don't realize that the small family farm basically doesn't exist anymore. The romanticism we've had about the small farmer with the farm in the family for hundreds of years, whatever. Those guys all went bankrupt first during the 80s.
Right.
And now they're going bankrupt again because of tariffs or for whatever reason. And every time a small farm goes bankrupt, it gets bought up by a corporation. So almost all of our farming
Too much consolidation,
is done by a handful of companies.
So why are we still that's another question. Why are we still subsidizing? I don't mind subsidizing the small family farm. There's certain whatever. I don't know all the details, but But why are we giving these tax breaks to
It
corporations?
makes no sense. I don't want to turn it political.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, like, in general.
Those tariffs, the $12 billion in bailout that we gave when the tariffs to China went in effect, mostly went to corporations.
Yeah.
Little guys who own a dairy farm didn't see a dime.
See, I miss those. I mean, Long Island, you look all around, all the farms, they're either completely sold and gone, or half the farm is now a housing development. And you really can't blame the farmer, because I'm sure they're making more money on the housing than they were on the farm.
Yep.
But it's sad because the food was grown locally. I like to support the local farms. When I drive out east, I try to buy stuff locally. I even buy local wines. I like to support the Long Island
I love going
industry.
out, sitting in the farm stands, buying fresh produce and stuff.
Or pure honey.
Yep.
Which honey is good for so many different things, ailments and everything else. Cool. So we're just going to take a quick break because we have a weather update.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So we have a weather update because we had this big storm. You see what they call the storm? They called it the bomb. They use all these. Just tell us what the weather is.
Yep.
Don't be over the top. The bomb, a weather bomb.
I saw them on News 12. Parts of Long Island make it as much as 6 inches. I lived in upstate New York for 20 years.
How many inches up there?
I remember
6 inches is flurries.
Yeah, 6 inches is like a dusting. I remember the year that I finally decided I had to leave upstate. Went to bed one night, got up the next morning, the snow was to the roof of my car. And I said, "That's it.
That's
done."
snow, yeah.
And that's
where up? How far up were you?
Oneonta. So not really. People upstate don't call it upstate. It's kind of like up near Albany, Binghamton area. But I just couldn't take the winters anymore, so I came down here where it's really mild. But they try to make it sound like it's tragedy coming.
The snow bomb is coming.
Snowmageddon 2019.
Hey, maybe I should do this as the movie preview announcer guy.
Yeah, there you go.
In a world where the weather is unpredictable, the snow bomb of 2019. I mean, that's like what they make it sound like it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's really it's weather.
Yep.
It's snow. It's not even that much. It's not even sticking because it's so wet out there.
Yeah.
So let's see. We're going to do I have to give a weather update. I'm trying to think who we should do the weather update as. Schwarzenegger.
All right.
I think that would be great. So the weather here in New York is not as good as it is in California. Tonight you're going to have a lot of snow, mainly before 5 a.m. The low around 29, blustery with a north wind of 17 to 20 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 33 miles per hour. Chance of precipitation is 100%. That means it's definitely going to happen, probably. I have no idea what it's going to be. Oh, but we also have to have, because there is a lot more snow in another area of the region, and Silvio Dante is going to explain what's happening there. Suffice to say, the weather's bad. You're going to have a little bit of snow in the city, but north and west of the city, as usual, you are effed. A lot of snow up there. There always is. So suffice to say, get the snowblower ready because you're going to get walloped. It's true. Always north and west of the city, they get creamed up there.
Yep.
I would never live north and west of the city. And it snowed at the Giant game.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
I had my cousin ask me if I wanted to go, and I couldn't go, but I'm like, oh, my God, it's like snow. Like, you couldn't even, they were shoveling the field.
Yeah.
They should have just left it there. They should have done anything.
I thought they were playing in Green Bay when I turned the game on.
Did you really? Oh, because of the snow, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The Giants, Jets.
At least I don't have to watch football for the rest of the year. My Sundays are free now.
Now that's the good news, right? We freed up our Sundays.
Yeah.
It's really pathetic.
What the saddest thing is? Have you watched any of Adam Gase's press conferences?
I can't watch him anymore.
He can't look up.
No, he can't. He's always looking down.
Will not look directly at it. I know his eyes are buggy, but he will not look. He will not look the press in the eyes as he's talking to them.
See, I miss Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we didn't score. I have to look at the film. We didn't play good football. As far as the defense, missed assignments. We didn't play good football. We got to play better football. Like, at least he told you something.
Yeah.
Like, missed assignments. I miss Todd Bowles. I actually liked it. He reminded me of a coach I used to have, so that's why I'm a little biased towards Todd Bowles, because he was like my other coach. But you know what I wanted to ask you about with the so I'm a big fan of the pulp orange juice.
Okay.
And I actually finally figured out why I'm such a big fan of the pulp orange juice. Superman 2,
Oh, okay.
right? She had the freshly squeezed orange juice. There's
Oh,
pulp in there,
okay, sure.
right? She also looks like the girl from my typing class, Margot Kidder.
Oh, okay.
So I think I finally, after all these years, I connected the
connection.
dots.
There you go.
Why I'm into the pulp so much. But I really do love pulp.
You like some pulp.
No, most pulp.
Most pulp, okay.
Oh, yeah, I go all the way.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how safe this is, but when I was down in Florida, my friend brought me orange juice. He was passing a grove on the way into Port St. Lucie. I was down there for spring training. And he brought me, they labeled it with like a Microsoft, like a sticky you could buy at Staples with just printed it off, black and white print.
Yep.
Orange juice, not pasteurized, whatever. Like, pick that day, squeeze that day. How safe is that? It's okay, right?
That's fine. Yeah.
It was the best tasting orange juice
I'll
I ever
bet.
had.
I'll bet.
It was like drinking Dom Perignon of orange juice. Oh, amazing.
Nothing like fresh squeezed.
Nothing like fresh squeezed orange juice. But they make them like the oranges are fresh too. They're right there on the grove.
Yep.
So so why do we have such a vibrant industry in the United States for oranges?
Mm-hmm.
California, and that is the proper way to say California. It's not it's California. Yes, that is you got it.
I got that.
California and Florida. Why when I look at Tropicana am I seeing Brazil and Mexico? Why are we buying from them? We have our own oranges. Why are we got to buy from them?
One reason is that the orange crop is very inconsistent
In the
from
States?
year to year.
Okay.
And it's going to be more inconsistent. I want to get into the whole global warming thing.
Right.
But we're going to have screwed up weather patterns that can wipe out the whole Florida crop in just, if we have a frost down in Florida for like a week,
Yep.
the crop is done. And so we'll have to get it from other sources.
That's what destroyed the Challenger.
Yep.
That and also the Columbia one could say, but that was ice from the field. But so we could lose spacecraft and orange juice to frost.
Yep.
Florida is not now. Why is it getting so frosty down there?
I don't really have an answer as to why.
Because I was in Lauderdale, it was like 32 degrees one day.
There are people who believe global warming is a thing, climate change is a thing. There's people who don't. I can't speak as an expert on it.
Right.
All I know is that the weather has been kind of screwy. If you look back to last year, we had like winter going into, harsh wet weather going into May.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we'll have like 75 degrees in November sometimes.
Remember the time we went to the Jet game?
Yeah.
And we had the suite?
Yep.
And we were like, I had never been to the stadium in December. I'd always used to go to September, October games.
Yep.
And then I was like, at least we're in the suite. But it was, how warm was it that day? It was like 60 degrees.
60-something degrees.
They lowered the windows because we didn't need
in the middle of December. And I remember going to, I lived when I told you I lived upstate where it was freezing and snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran a hot dog cart when I lived up there. And I was outside till 4 a.m. selling hot dogs. And it was so freaking cold that my fingertips would freeze until May. I remember going to a Giants game with a friend at the Meadowlands probably 20 years ago and thinking that was the coldest I've ever been in my entire life. And that was also probably in December. Now we go and we're wearing T-shirts.
Right.
It's just I don't explain it. I don't get into the whole.
I don't know.
I can't
It's
understand the science.
weird.
Something's up. It's changing. Whether it's man-made or not, things are changing.
Right. Well, there was also that, I've seen a few movies, The Core. With the whole core of the, there's a lot of things to worry about with the shifts and solar and everything. So, I don't know.
At least I think. Hopefully, the Earth just lasts till I pass away. That would be my daughter's problem. She can worry about it. Maybe I'll like her to get through it too. But things are going to get weird in the next 2 decades or so.
Yeah, and we have more information than we've ever had. We have satellite constellations up there. They can only. We have thermal imaging and all this other stuff that could tell us more about the weather.
Some other show we'll discuss people who don't believe in science anymore, who actively I see them on social media, who actively anything science says they just distrust.
Yeah,
and I've actually seen people say like, I don't believe what science says.
Right.
I'm like, it's just because you can't understand it doesn't mean science is out to get you.
Right.
So it's just a bizarre thing we see. People, scientists. I'll give you one example. A story about an iceberg, and part of it broke off a couple of months ago. and they said this, and the story said the iceberg weighed something like 300 million tons, something like that.
Yep.
And all these people were like on Facebook were like, oh, like they know how much it weighs.
Yeah, they can estimate.
I'm like, well, yeah, there's a whole thing with mass and
water weighs X pounds per gallon. I think 8.
Yep.
And then they figure out the dimensions.
Yeah,
and they come up with a and you know what? If they're off by 10 million pounds, does it matter?
Yep.
It's do you ever see them? You saw Armageddon, right?
Yeah, sure.
When they're like, when the president goes, "How big is this thing?" And he's like, the anomaly is approximately 1.8. But he's like, "It's the size of Texas, Mr. President." Like that gives you instant sizing. You don't need to know the exact dimension. It's the size of Texas. It's bad.
Yeah.
That, by the way, is a big thing of mine. We need to figure out an asteroid defense because we got hit once, we'll get hit again.
Yep.
And we're not sending Bruce Willis up there with 2 space shuttles. You can't land a space shuttle on an asteroid. You need a runway for that.
Yep.
What the hell would it? You got to land something like a lunar module, like a vertical descent. You can't land the thing with a runway there. That was a stupid premise.
Sending Ben Affleck too. I mean,
and you don't send Ben Affleck up there. No, they should have sent Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
Yeah, they would have taken care of it.
It's like, hey, we're gonna destroy the asteroid. Yeah, make sure you're back on the shuttle and leave your ass up here. I could have written that movie with Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Yeah. Maybe you throw Jesse Ventura in there. It's like, we have to go now. It's gonna blow. That would have been a cool movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys get out the space shuttle. There's a predator monster over there. That could have been a really good picture.
We do a reboot with Jason Statham and The Rock.
And The Rock. Yeah. Oh, The Rock would be perfect as The Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
Yeah, and we get Emma Stone in there, too. And we film in Boulder.
Yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, yeah.
But there really is. I have seen, like, realistic ways to deflect the and if you do it when it's far enough out, all you have to do is land something with a certain amount of propellant, and you can just push it.
Right.
If you nudge it just a little bit, it'll miss us by. There was one that missed us by 100,000 miles, and someone goes, "Oh, that's a lot." And I'm like, "The moon is 230,000 miles. Right. That means, I don't know if it flew between the moon and the Earth, but the distance-wise, it did.
Wow.
That's a little too close in astrophysical terms for me." Because really, that means that it just missed us. That's really a very close call.
So since the Earth is flat, if the asteroid hits us, it's just going to flip us upside down?
It'll flip us upside down.
All right, so then we'll be where Australia is, right?
I can't believe how many people believe the Earth is flat.
Here's the funny thing about that. I'm 99% sure the Flat Earth Society was started as a joke. That these guys just thought, it
was a gag.
Yeah, it was an inside joke. They'll say, "Oh, we'll start the Flat Earth Society," and they had no idea that people were going to buy into this. But the people who believe it are so adamant now, and they go, "Well, haven't you done your research? Look at YouTube videos." And
how do you explain this? So I used to work for an astronaut. He flew 4 shuttle missions.
Yep.
He told me definitively the Earth isn't flat. He also told me that the islanders never left Long Island, which is funny because I said it to him. I go, "Tom, did you see any?" He goes, "No, Brooklyn is part of Long Island."
Yeah.
Now, culturally, it's not, but geographically and physically, they never left Long Island. You know? Not that I care. I could care less. Hockey could disappear. I wouldn't even know for months.
My daughter's 16, and we were discussing the flat Earth thing, and she said, "They keep saying that they're lying to us and telling us the Earth is round," and she said, "Why? What advantage is there for the government and the Illuminati to make us think the Earth is round?
Right.
What do they get out of it?" My daughter's 16 and has figured this out. And people, grown adults, are arguing that the Earth is actually flat.
So if it's flat, what's holding the water, the ocean water in?
They have so many different theories explaining it. You have to watch a couple of videos, flat Earth videos.
I don't know if I have the patience.
Keep a pillow by you to bang in your face or throw at the computer. It will drive. My brother actually fell down that rabbit hole a couple of months ago, where he was looking. I don't know if he was looking for stripper videos or something, and he fell down the rabbit hole into flat Earth videos, and he got obsessed for 2 months and argued with people and stuff like that. He said, "I finally had to stop watching because it was driving me insane."
So I was at the when I was at the Tableau conference in Las Vegas in 2015. Neil deGrasse Tyson was one of the keynotes.
Okay,
and that was really cool. And all he did was make fun of these kinds of things in the movies and everything. And he said, "Do you remember Close Encounters when they're getting this printout from the aliens?" And the guy goes, "Oh, I know what that is. It's latitude and longitude. This is where they're going to land." He goes, "If they were looking at the Earth," he goes, "the prime meridian, which goes through England, was purely based on the political situation at that time. The British decided that they were that's where the Western and Eastern hemispheres come from. They decided that. You can't look at the Earth from space and say, oh, that's the prime meridian, and directly opposite that in the Pacific is the international date line." And he said, and then they had these lights that were guiding the ship in. He goes, "They just flew through interstellar space. You think they need your stupid lights to tell them? They can park it wherever they damn well please." He had me cracking up. It was amazing.
They also call him an Illuminati shill.
Yeah.
He's part of he's pushing the round Earth theory, because he works for them.
Yep. Well, I flew in a military aircraft. I flew in a KC-135 refueling tanker when I was 15 years old, and I looked straight down. We were at 40,000 feet refueling Phantoms, and the windows. You don't really see the curvature of the Earth too much on a commercial flight because the windows are smaller.
Right.
I mean, you can depending on the altitudes they fly, but this was the entire back is a window because that you're on your stomach and the jets come behind for their fuel. That bigger window gave me a much broader view, and I could assure you it's round. I saw the curve. You could see the curve much easier on that larger window than you can on a smaller commercial window. So let's go through that list of foods that were banned.
Sure. Everywhere else but here.
But here.
Specifically, the European Union has banned a lot of things. They put a moratorium on GMOs a few years ago, and they take it on a case-by-case basis and do a lot of testing on them. But they've banned most of these ingredients that we still feed our kids every day.
Yep. So we've got artificial food dyes, which are found in cereals, sports drinks. I got to admit, the blue drinks are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit, macaroni. What the frick? Oh, I should mention that we're going to have a representative from the Tony Soprano, who is the president of the Metropolitan Area Food Industry Association. Their acronym is MAFIA.
Oh, okay.
And so Tony he'll comment here and there. Tony, are you there? Yeah, what the frick? They put this artificial shit in macaroni pasta's tan. Anything you want to say to Tony on that?
No, Tony. One guy I never argue with.
But it's derived from petroleum, it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to share the list with you better. Farm salmon is number 2.
Yep. Farm salmon started out as a great idea. Said if we farm the fat salmon, we can, instead of wild fishing for them, we can control the population. But wild salmon eat their food supply is in the ocean. We feed the farmed salmon a diet of like non-natural foods that are created. We're feeding them made up like grains and stuff. We're feeding to fish, and then they have to process the fish to give it a better color once it's done because it doesn't have natural.
Natural salmon color.
Yep.
I can't even say this. Brominated vegetable oil.
Yep.
And that is in.
That's in like Gatorade, I believe.
Let's see. Sports drinks was the number one thing, and citrus flavored soda.
Yep.
And it's a poisonous chemical that's toxic. Birth defects, organ system damage, schizophrenia.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Bad.
Yeah, bad.
Alestra's number 4.
Alestra, do you remember when that first came out?
Yep.
And they said, oh, you can have fat-free potato chips. And all of a sudden, everybody kept crapping their pants.
Yep, that's it. Yep. That's the, and it's in fat-free potato chips and French fries.
Yep.
Inhibits your body's ability to absorb vitamins.
Yep. I think even though it's still legal, I don't think it's used very much because the side effects were so obvious and so bad. I remember the very first time I ate some Alestra potato chips.
Oh, yeah.
We're on radio. I can't get into the details, but that was the last time I ever ate Alestra potato chips.
So let's just say it was a total disaster.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, I can't even say this word. Can you help me with that one?
Let's try azodicarbonamide. Carbonamide.
Zodiac carbon.
I can't even say it. But it's bad, and it's in frozen dinners, boxed pasta.
Here comes the pasta again. This is bullshit.
Packaged baked goods, bread, and it's a chemical. Linked to asthma. Mm-hmm. I have asthma.
Whoops.
What is this in? It's in frozen dinners, box pasta. We're gonna post a link to this list on at the end of the show, so people can read it. Baked goods and various breads.
I think this is the one. Can't swear to it. I believe this is the one Subway pulled out of their bread a couple of years ago, when someone pointed out that they used this in making rugs and carpets.
Yeah, and it also says foam plastics.
Yes, and it was used in foam.
All this industrial stuff.
In foam backing under sofas. And I remember saying to someone that this was ridiculous. And a chemical guy, a chemist, said, just because it's used in making foam rubber doesn't mean it's bad. I said, but why do we use it in the first place? Because it helps raise the bread quicker and more efficiently. I said, well, how about this? How about teaching the people how to bake?
How to bake, yeah.
If you know how to bake bread, you don't have to add foam rubber ingredients into it.
You know what's funny? I'll just anecdotally, before we get to number 6, I buy Cadbury chocolates that are not made. So Cadbury in the United States is made by Hershey.
Right.
Now, I've had Cadbury. I've been to England a couple of times, Europe, and also in the islands, right? And the Cadbury that they sell is made in Ireland and the UK, or the UK, I forget. Way better tasting.
Sure.
It's more natural. It doesn't have all these other crappy ingredients in them. I like Hershey, but I wish they would follow the British standard and use these more natural things. Now, we know that sugar is not good for you, but I've had soda that's made with cane sugar and doesn't have all these other chemicals in it. Yep. It's basically just some flavoring. Way better tasting, lower calorie. Not that I'm advocating sugar is good, but I think the cane sugar is more natural than the processed white sugar, which is almost like a poison. Synthetic hormones, RBGH and RBST. Were these some of the acronyms you were talking about before, I think?
RBGH. It sounds like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. RBGH, recombinant bovine growth hormone, is injected into cows to increase their milk output. Mm-hmm. Increases it somewhere around 10 to 15%. Banned everywhere else in the world now, except the United States, which is, we don't really even need to increase milk production because real milk sales are down 40% over the last couple of years as people have gone to alternatives.
The almond milks.
Almond milk, oat milk sales are up 38% last year. Regular milk sales are way, way, way down.
Is it because of this stuff?
No, just because people wanted non-dairy alternatives.
Okay.
A lot of people have moved away from dairy. It's funny, though. They'll eat cheese, but they won't use milk. So this was most people, Americans just either don't care or don't know. But there was a big fight against this stuff. Organic milk companies such as Organic Valley, which is one of my favorite companies ever. It's a group of farmers who created a co-op, pool all their resources, and they combine all their stuff into sales. So for the whole co-op benefits, like not just one farm. They wanted to label milk as not having RBGH in it. Fought by the dairies and fought for against by politicians who were bought off by the dairies, saying it unnecessarily tells consumers that RBGH is bad. No, it educates the consumer to what they're eating. They have a right to know.
The very simple thing that they put up in all the restaurants with the calorie counts, right? People are like, oh, let people choose, and when you tell them for. I use that information because, you know what, I've looked at the calorie counts, and I've ordered differently accordingly based on what I see. So not that I'm saying that any fast food is good or but there are better choices than so if you're in an airport and the only thing to eat there is a McDonald's, you might get the 500 calorie thing as opposed to the 1,200 calorie thing.
Sure,
that kind of thing. I don't understand why information is bad.
They don't want people to be educated. My wife Kelly used to love smoothies, but she would buy them from McDonald's.
Yep.
Where it's just basically an artificial flavor and sugar. And I let her. I didn't say anything about it until one time she actually looked at the menu and saw how much sugar was in it.
There's a lot of sugar in this thing.
You drink one of those every day, you're going to be diabetic eventually, most likely.
Even Carvel. Now I'm on Weight Watchers. I get 56 points a day.
Right.
There's an item. Now I like Carvel. Wednesday or Sunday I always treat the kids but I get the small, instead of the big.
Yeah.
So I cut back a little bit. But there's one, I forget what it is. I think it's a shake or a float. It's 80 points. Now I get 56 points a day.
Right.
Right.
Yes, you
That's
heard that?
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and
Yep.
a treat.
Yep.
This sucker is 80 points. No,
Yep.
88 points. I'm sorry. 88 points. It was
Yep.
Hakeem Nicks's number. That's
Yep.
how I remembered it.
So, I mean, if you compare it with a McDonald's fruit smoothie to going to a juice shop,
Right.
an organic one, it's night and day difference, and they're just as delicious, but they get you with the sugar.
We got two more, and then I want to talk about we're going to talk about the Irishman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So BHA and BHT, those are, again, now I eat a lot of cereal. I eat Special K.
Yeah.
I've been eating Special K since 1982.
Wow.
And there's probably, maybe I shouldn't be eating so much because all this crap is in the cereal.
Yep. There's better cereals you can be eating, but we'll go over that
You're
later.
going to tell me which ones.
Sure.
Arsenic.
Yeah, it sounds like, how can
No
you-
brainer.
Yeah.
Poultry. It's in chicken feed to promote growth and boost pigmentation, which makes the chicken flesh look more pink and probably appear healthier. It's a carcinogen by the EPA. It's a carcinogen
Yes.
from the EPA,
Yeah.
and it's allowed in the food supply.
Because they decide that like certain levels per million is safe.
But we don't know what the cumulative effect of eating that is, right? I mean, it's
Exactly.
all about the
And this is why other countries have decided better safe than sorry.
right.
And we've decided, we'll see
Why?
what
I
happens.
don't understand.
It's all about the dollars.
Potassium bromate is in wraps, rolls, flatbread, bagel, chips, and breadcrumbs.
Sure.
And it's the same harmful chemical as the vegetable oil, the brominated thing that we talked about before. Oh, just what you said, decreasing baking time and cost.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
well,
some-
no, it said
Yeah,
it was the same as the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They use it, and like I said, they use it in foam rubber and bread.
And it's not on our list, but high fructose corn syrup,
Is the biggest poison going.
biggest poison out there.
Yeah.
And it's in everything.
Yep.
It's in. I've seen breads that say no high fructose corn syrup, and I'm like, oh, those are probably better. I bet you they have the other two things in them though that I got to look for now.
Certain breads that you should look at and just stay away from. Organic breads, even some of the natural breads out there that they sell at the supermarket, it says like natural health or something on it. First ingredient, high fructose corn syrup, which the industry tried to change the name a couple of years ago to corn sugar.
Of course, to make it sound healthier.
Make it sound
Or more natural,
Yeah.
whatever. So this list was published by Delish. It's 9 American foods that have been banned in other countries. The subtitle is "No one else is eating them. Why the hell are we?"
Yes.
And we're going to post the link, but if we don't, if we forget, you can Google it. And I think this is great having you here to talk about this stuff.
I love it.
Because we are a satirical radio show, but we also like to provide useful information. Also, by the way, I just heard from my director of advertising we lost Monsanto as a sponsor.
No, damn.
Yeah. No, they pulled out. But actually, you know what? I used to be in media. You know why they shouldn't pull out? They should sponsor at the highest level this show because we're talking about them in a negative way, and with the advertising, that's a chance for them to give their point.
Sure.
Which is fair,
Yep.
and we'll take their money, and then
Yeah.
we'll go out and buy non-Monsanto foods.
I may be health conscious, but I'm a money whore, so this balances out.
That's right; it balances out. So you had a brilliant joke today on Facebook about the Irishman.
Sure.
Do you care to share it? Or?
I think I said it's time for an all-female reboot of The Irishman. Its time has come.
So we don't want to give away any spoilers because a lot of people haven't seen it, and I hate when people do that. There were people that were spoiling the Star Wars for me, and I couldn't. I have 2 kids. I couldn't get out and see it within the first couple of weeks. So we like to give at least 30 days, for people to see it before we start talking about it. But in general, the feedback that I'm seeing is that it was a little disappointing.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Even though I know it's different than Casino and Goodfellas, it seems like it's rehashing this. Even when Casino came out, because it was De Niro and Pesci, I felt like that was kind of rehashing Goodfellas. This seems like a geriatric rehash.
Right, a geriatric. It's like, man, we got to talk to the guy.
Yeah.
The guy. We got to go see the guy about the thing from the other guy.
Yeah.
Go see him.
Yeah. For this thing of ours, a friend of a friend. The thing was, I was glad it was on Netflix because there's no way I could have sat through the whole thing in the movie theater without
No way.
getting up to pee.
Right.
3.5 hours.
Why aren't I said this a couple of episodes ago? Why don't they have the bathrooms in the theater
Right.
so that you either can see it on a screen, so that every bathroom should have like every theater should have a few, so that you don't miss anything.
Yep.
You either see it on the screen or you have like a little window that you peep out, you poke as like a cutout type
Yep.
window that you can see the picture. Probably the screen would be better.
Yep.
Why don't they have that? Why do I got to go, 200 yards away?
When we get off, I'll tell you my solution to that because I hate until I was like 40 and I couldn't hold it anymore.
Yep.
I would hold it. I would never leave a movie. I was dedicated from the previews to the closing credits. I never left. Now sometimes I got to go, but I've got a solution. I don't want to say it on there.
On the seat, at the seat, a seat that
Not quite, but.
make the whole seat. It reclines and it also underneath the toilet.
One of my biggest things with The Irishman, although I thought it was very good storytelling, and and I gotta say, by the way, I understand Scorsese's dislike of Marvel movies because who wants to see a 3.5 hour movie where the characters are all CGI'd?
Right.
But that really took me.
What do you mean? See, that was us.
Yeah, but they use this like de-aging.
Yeah,
software.
it was weird. It was weird.
It took me out of the movie trying to see them make De Niro look 30 years younger. I mean, in Godfather 2, they had De Niro playing the Marlon Brando role as a younger guy, right?
Right.
I don't see why they couldn't have
They
cast
should have had
somebody
that,
in their 30s to play Pesci and De Niro.
Then.
In their 40s. Then.
Right, they had a younger Uncle Junior on The Sopranos,
Yeah.
and you know what? What they did an amazing job with CGI was. Did you see Rogue One?
Yes.
Governor Tarkin.
Yeah.
That was scary.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really scary how
Yeah.
good the job they did. How did they do the voice? I wonder. They might have had a really good impressionist.
Probably because should have had you.
Well, I don't want to say, but that guy's name was. No, I'm kidding. I didn't do it. But it was amazing the way they put that together. I mean, I really thought it was like, and it didn't look that CGI'd.
Right.
It looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's something with using facial software and CGI. It's going to take them a while to perfect, like everything else. I mean, like if you look at the difference between Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 3.
Oh, amazing!
It looks almost human now. But when you got, did you see Justice League?
I did.
How they had to CGI Henry Cavill, is that his name?
Yeah.
They had
Superman,
to CGI
yeah.
his face because he actually had a mustache from another movie he was filming when they did reshoots for Justice League.
I think he was filming Mission Impossible
Yeah.
Fallout or whatever.
And so they had to bring him in for reshoots, but he had a mustache for the other movie, so they had to CGI out the mustache. And you just look at him sometimes during the middle of the movie.
I didn't know that.
If you go back and watch it again, there's points where his face just doesn't look human. It looks really weird.
See, Bill Clinton walked into the office, into the studio. I really like that Wonder Woman. I wish they do more Wonder Woman movies.
Yeah.
The Wonder Woman, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well. That's my favorite superhero ever.
Yeah.
Also looks like the girl from my typing class.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot going on. So if I ever saw Wonder Woman drinking orange juice,
forget
about it. Drinking. Oh, I wanted to ask you about the pulp orange juice.
Sure.
Somebody told me that the pulp is actually plastic. True or false?
False. What there is they there's a weird process you have to read about with orange juice where they have flavor packets that are in plastic that are added later on to the juice. So they'll make the juice, store it somehow, and then later on before they produce it, these flavor packets that have more of the pulp in it are added in that are in plastic, but they're released out of the plastic. But it's not like it's like when you buy Tropicana, it's not like it's squeezed juice. It's like portion of the juice, and then later on a flavor packet is added to it.
Why? Why can't it just be juice?
Anything to save a penny. It's scary. What somebody said to me the other day? Why before we got into the 50s and processing food and the technological advancements, basically all food was organic. You picked it and you ate it.
Right.
So why do we have to label food as organic? That should just be called food.
It should be food, right? The other crap should be artificial.
Should be labeled as what it is,
Yes.
artificial and processed. We shouldn't have to pay extra for organic food because, like with the GMOs, you have to go through a massive certification to get an organic certification on your product. And
it should be the other way.
Yeah.
It should be your artificial crap has to comply with whatever.
Like when you go and buy organic eggs, they should just say eggs on it.
Eggs.
That's it.
You know what? That's what we're going to do.
All right.
That's going to be day one.
Okay.
January 20th. Let's see. I'm probably not going to run in 2020.
No, let's skip this one. 2025?
2024. So January 20th, 2025, I'll be president. So my congressman here, Peter King, is retiring. And everybody's telling me to run for the seat. Because my friends, you know what my friend said to me? He goes, John, you run for the seat.
Yep.
You get elected, right? In 2024, you're somebody's vice president. They resign or die, and you're in the big chair.
Yep.
He laid a whole map out for me.
Sounds good.
He goes, and then some jerk will be doing impressions of you.
Yep.
I don't know how you're going to do a John Santo, but I would probably change my voice to throw them off.
Yeah.
Because I want to do me. I don't want anybody else making money off of me.
Exactly.
That would be terrible. But let me just see what else we wanted to talk to you about. We covered the pulp. Oh, Matt's orange juice.
Yep.
Is that organic?
Yes.
That is organic.
Yep.
Right. So Matt's is very expensive though.
Can sell for up to $7.99 for a half
which
gallon.
is like twice the price
Yeah.
of the orange juice that I buy because I'm
that's
cheap.
Why you see it when you see it on sale, some places $4.99. I buy.
That's when I bought. I bought at Target.
Yeah.
And if they don't make it with pulp, unfortunately. But that's another thing. We're going to make the companies have to make pulp free, but they also have to have some pulp and max pulp.
Some pulp. Do your Tony.
I said some pulp. I don't like the maximum pulpage.
I think Matt's makes a high pulp, but Target probably doesn't sell it. They do make it though.
I haven't seen. Well, if I find it, I'm gonna frickin' buy it.
Yeah.
I frickin' love the pulp. Anyway, let me just do a quick commercial for the Metropolitan Area Food Industry Association. We're John's sponsors. So listen to the radio, capiche? It's a good show. Freaking phenomenal. You learn about foods. I'm pissed off about this pasta shit, right? So the Metropolitan Area Food Industry Association, better known by our acronym MAFIA, we have all natural pasta. Don't fear nothing. And don't listen to that Atkins bullshit. Carbs are good for you. Italian bread, prosciutto, mozzarella, those are proteins. Who cares? It's all good. We taught the world how to eat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Soprano, for the sponsorship.
And Mr. Soprano brought to you by the New Jersey Museum of Science and Trucking.
All right, so I think that just about right. Unless anything else you want to say, we're coming to the end of the show.
No, there's nothing to talk about the Jets or the Giants. So
Nothing there.
Nothing.
In terms of organic foods, is there any website or something people can go to get better educated on this topic?
Organic Valley, as I mentioned before, is basically a dairy company, but they also are fighting the way for organics and fight. They were the leaders against the GMO movement. So if you go to organicvalley.com, you can find tons of information there about GMOs, about RBGH, about organic versus conventional farming.
Yep.
They're a great resource, and they'll have links that lead you to other places too.
Yep. And I think this is a safe to say is a bipartisan thing. If you give politicians money, they're going to do what you want.
Yeah.
And it's like common sense. It doesn't matter what party. It's not political. It's institutional. And I think as an institutional rule, politicians shouldn't be allowed to accept money. I'd actually like to see the Congresses picked at random by computer. So if your name comes up, Doug, you're the congressman from Long Island, that district, whatever, you go to Washington.
It's like the Hunger Games, just randomly.
You just randomly pick, but you serve and you make, they don't make that much, considering you need two houses. So we'll build a dormitorium for the Congress, or we'll pay them more housing thing, because D.C. sucks, and they don't have good pizza down there.
No.
So we'll have to figure out a way to get the New Yorkers to participate, but we'll find a way.
Yeah.
And I would rather just pick the people by random, and 1-2 terms, that's it.
Be more successful that way.
I think we'll be way more successful.
Yeah.
And again, it's not political, it's institutional. Okay. It's just the structure of, like, if you were setting it up, would you want them taking money to pass the... No. But that concludes the show. So next week, we're going to have another all-star guest host. Different topic. I think it keeps the show fresh. And we thank you for tuning in. Who's going to close the show? What celebrity should close the show? Morgan Freeman? Yeah. That's our... Say it, Mr. Producer.
Let's let Morgan close out the show. Mr. Morgan Freeman.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Bobby's the producer. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the radio. And remember, make better choices with your food, because if you don't make better choices with your food, that leads to other. We're going to have somebody here about pharmaceuticals, and that leads to other health problems. So eat better, be better, feel better, stay better. I'm Morgan Freeman.